Okay, well, I pulled the caliper out of my bike again to have a quick gander at it and hopefully explain a couple of quick points. These two bolts here, well, yeah, they allow, when undone, they allow this to slide up and down here to, well, I'll just undo them and demonstrate it, to position exactly where the pair of pistons is going to be relative to the bike. So like that can slide over there or up here, so you've got that movement to reposition where the caliper sits on the bike. So I'm going to have to reposition this anyway, but what's interesting here is the amount of overlap that's coming out on these two sides of the caliper. I can't focus the camera any closer without it being very unwieldy, but there it is. However, there's two things that you have to do to adjust. This is the inside, because this is normally the part that's visible on the outside, so the inside, you need to adjust that part of the caliper, and that's done by inserting 5mm hex into there, and then you just treat it like a bolt where you screw it and unscrew it, and you can see when it's moving that the piston is coming out. Well, I'm calling it a piston, but it's not really a piston. That side of the caliper is coming out. You'll be able to see that there's a little bit more green showing there, and if I screw it the other way, then it goes back in. And if you can't see the brake pad there, then when this side squeezes, it's going to be causing that squealing that people talk about, as if it's a mystery. When you're, sorry, I just keep thinking of other things that I want to say, but I'm trying not to actually say them. So your disc goes in the middle of the slot here. So basically, I'm going to adjust that out so that there's more green pad visible there. Now, changing the discs is pretty simple. You just, take that little guy out with a pair of pliers, and that she slides. So now the next part that you can't really adjust that I've been able to find is how far this throws over there. Okay, so like the cable comes through here and pulls that over there. Now, ideally, you want the brake pads to clamp together. I'm just trying to find a good angle to clamp together against the disc with the least amount of travel possible. So that means really this side, which doesn't move, needs to be out more or less as far as it can go without causing the disc to rub on this side. I'll try and point with this. You don't want the disc to rub on the metal here, and you don't want the disc to rub on the metal there. So you want as much pad visible as possible here so that you can actually have the discs close, the pads close, with the minimum compression of this. So now that I've got that adjusted to where I think is about right, I'm going to lock it down. The lock screw here just prevents, this is 2.5 by the way, so just tighten that in, and then that will prevent vibration from unwinding that or winding it on. So now I can go and mount this back on the bike and adjust up the brakes, and hopefully it'll all go nicely. Okay, so hopefully we can get a better look at this, but you can see here that I have that now adjusted so that this side of the caliper, the inside of the caliper, is actually now snug against the disc. And I've got the discs, the caliper screwed on just more or less lightly so that I can adjust it all. And then by actuating this a little bit, I'm able to get the outside pad to push against this. So basically, I want to do up these screws when I've got the caliper more or less touching there, and just finger touching, just with my hard to do this without blocking the camera. Just bringing it evenly against the pad with my fingers is enough to actually then do that up. So let's see if I can juggle all of this at the same time. Where did the screwdriver go? So just hold that in against that, and then the other side's going to be a little bit harder to do without taking it off, but then that will allow the brakes to provide enough pad movement without forcing the disc to be bent over, like I've heard some people discussing, and then it'll all be fine. So I'll just give this one a nip up, take it off so I can tighten up the other side, because once this side's tightened, that side, because it's a solid piece of metal, shouldn't move. And then it's all more or less straight. One more quick point that may not be obvious to people is that there's a socket hole in here, and that's actually there to help you to get that up and hold it there when tightening this. So basically you can lift that up so that it's firm, move your cable through so that it's relatively straight, and then just do the final tighten up, and you've got something to lever against while you're tightening this up. Let's see how much movement I've got there. That's a bit too much. I need to loosen it off a little bit, so I can loosen that back, hold this, allow that to fall back a little bit, and that'll give me the bit of movement that I need. Yep, and that's fine, and that'll then actually stop. So, job done.